Maternal diet's effect on child's health. What is nutrition in the womb? Children and their parents share more than just half each other's DNA. They share an environment. This environment does not begin when the child is born, or even at conception. It begins years before a woman becomes pregnant. The nutrients a woman's body stores will nourish her body and also her future baby as it grows in her womb. The diet of the mother during and before pregnancy directly affects the mental and physical development of the child, both in the womb and later on in life. We used to think about nutrition during pregnancy simply. The baby eats what the mom eats. This is not exactly the case. Growing fetuses obtain their nutrients through the placenta, an organ that supports the normal growth and development of a fetus by providing it protection and allowing for the diffusion of nutrients from the mother's blood across the membrane to the fetus's blood, while removing fetal waste in the opposite direction. These nutrients come from what the mother ingests on a day-to-day basis during pregnancy, and also from stored nutrients in fat cells and muscle tissue that the mother has accumulated over time before pregnancy. This exchange of nutrients and waste begins to occur after the placenta has implanted in the uterine wall and the stored nutrients from the egg have been depleted. The functional units of the placenta are called chronic villi, where the maternal and fetal blood supplies are separated only by a thin layer of cells. At these sites of diffusion, the maternal endometrium arteries bathe the placental membrane with oxygenated and nutrient-rich blood. These nutrients diffuse across the membrane and into the capillary bed created by the umbilical veins of the fetus that then carry the nutrients back to the fetus. The growing baby needs a lot of nutrients to develop successfully, so it is not particularly discriminatory to what nutrients the mother is providing. However, the nutrition of the child receives while in utero will affect its health and development later on in life.
For example, researchers have found that higher intake levels of N6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, also known as PUFAs, lead to fatter children. What exactly are PUFAs? They are fatty acids that contain more than one double bond, such as the commonly studied omega-3 and omega-6 PUFAs. These can be found in common food products such as nuts and cooking oils. When the Medical Research Council did a study involving nearly 300 children at ages 4 and 6, they found that, while average heights and weights were the same, the toddlers of mothers who had the highest intake of N6 PUFAs also had the highest fat mass. This suggests that a change in the mother's diet during pregnancy would directly affect the body composition of her developing child. Likewise, the same study is also uncovering information about the relationship between a mother's N6 PUFA intake and the bone mass of her offspring. And while the correlation between N3 intake and its effects is less significant, research suggests that higher levels of this PUFA in the mother lead to less fat and more muscle in their children. These and other aspects of the maternal diet can cause both long and short-term effects on the health of a mother's child.
The extreme case of poor diet and exercise can lead to maternal obesity, which is directly correlated with complications arising in the prenatal and postpartum development of the infant. For one thing, pregnant obese mothers have an estimated risk of stillbirth that is twice that of pregnant women of normal weight. Maternal obesity is also a risk factor for miscarriages and it increases the likelihood of having recurring miscarriages. We have highlighted some of the other predominant issues in infants that are directly linked to obese mothers. Preeclampsia is a disorder that occurs late in pregnancy, usually at about 20 weeks, and affects both the mother and unborn baby. It is characterized by dangerously high blood pressure and the presence of protein in the urine. Researchers have yet to determine what exactly causes preeclampsia, but it is linked to poor diet and insufficient blood flow to the uterus, more commonly found in obese mothers. Other hypertension disorders can later develop into preeclampsia, which in turn cause premature births, or in more serious case, death if left untreated. Preeclampsia is a leading cause of maternal and infant death, responsible for 76,000 maternal and 500,000 infant deaths each year. Fetal macrosomia, or big baby syndrome, is directly linked to the blood glucose levels of the mother. A baby 9 pounds or over is considered macrosomic, and there has been a rise in macrosomic babies in the last 20 years. These babies, in addition to having higher blood sugar levels at birth, have an increased risk of developing conditions that affect overweight adults, high blood pressure, excessive body fat, and even diabetes later on in life. Macrosomia can also cause injury to the baby during vaginal birth, such as shoulder dystocia, in which the infant's shoulder gets stuck behind the mother's pelvic bone and causes collarbone fractures or other broken bones. Lastly, a neural tube defect, or NTD, is a serious malfunction in the development of the brain and spinal cord that occurs very early on in pregnancy. In one case of NTD, spina bifida, the fetal spinal column doesn't close completely and usually results in nerve damage or paralysis in the infant's legs. In some cases, most of the brain and skull do not develop, and this almost always causes a stillbirth or infant mortality. Researchers do not know the exact cause of this detriment, but is more predominantly seen among obese mothers. Many complications can be treated with proper prenatal care, but a healthy diet will ensure the health of the baby.
There is evidence supporting that the presence of excess amounts of adipose tissue contained in mother's body during pregnancy lead to a higher probability of the child being obese. First, let's take a look at what is an adipose tissue and what is its function in our body. An adipose tissue is a fat tissue that performs multiple functions including nutritional, hormonal, and even structural support. Adipose tissues mainly serve as future energy sources where the body stores fats to avoid the negative metabolic consequences of excess cellular lipid deposits in its organs. Also, they function as endocrine organs that may relate to the cause of obesity. Basically, most of the foods with excess fats contain adipose tissue. Therefore, mothers should regulate and monitor the food they consume before and during their pregnancy because as fat tissues build up inside their body, the more likely their child is to be obese. Although a certain amount of fat is required for a healthy pregnancy and a healthy diet, too much adipose tissue will result in malfunctions of the body.
During fetal development, the child is completely dependent upon its mother for adequate nutrition. These nutrients delivered by the mother diffuse across the placenta directly into the baby's bloodstream. If the baby is receiving excessive quantities of nutrients, such as PUFAs, its health could be detrimented immediately and in the long run. These nutrients are acquired by the mother both before and during pregnancy, making a constant healthy lifestyle of the mother crucial for normal fetal development. This healthy lifestyle must also continue after the baby's birth because her lifestyle choices directly correlate to the health of her child.